Hi, good evening everyone. So today is the day 23 of the Gear Up Mains Answer Writing. In this week we are discussing the question of the international relation from the GS2. Yesterday we discussed about the SCO and day before yesterday we discussed about the SARC and the BIMSTEC that our question was asked in the 2022 and the 2021 respectively. Now we will discuss the next question related to in the same series. Those who are new here in this program, we are discussing the previous year questions. We are giving you a question in the morning. You people will write the answer and you will submit to the portal. And after the submission, your copy will be evaluated by our expert mentors. And at 6 p.m. every day from Monday to Friday, I will discuss the same question. So please try to write, because a practice may come man perfect. Without writing, just if you're just listening this video, it's not be much helpful. But when you're writing and then you're evaluating yourself, then these videos will be very helpful for you to understanding the demand of the question, to also understanding the demand of the exam. Okay, let's start with the today's question. The question is, the incidence and intensity of poverty. There are two keywords, the incidence and the intensity of poverty are more important in determining poverty based on the income alone. So this is a statement given from any of the news article. The incidence and the intensity of the poverty are more important determining the poverty based on the income alone. In this context, analyze the latest United Nations Multidimensional Poverty Index report. So we need to be analyze the United Nations Multi-Poverty Index in this case, and also we need to address the first part of the question, how the incidence and intensity of poverty. So how the determination of the incidence and the intensity of poverty can be more useful instead of the just income. Here the incidence meaning the proportion of the population comes under the poverty. The incidence meaning the proportion of the population comes under the poverty, and the intensity meaning on which factors, on which different kind of the area like malnutrition, child stunted growth, anemia, and in which level they are under the poverty. So there is a difference between the incidence and the intensity. So it should be clear before writing the answer what is the difference between the incidence and the intensity of the poverty. So this question was asked in the UPSC 2020, and this year is also expectation. In 2023 they will ask a question related to poverty, because of death of the an economist, those who determine the poverty line, the YK alag. So we can expect one more question related to the poverty in the GS2 specifically. Okay, so let's start the question. We divide the question in the three parts. The first part will be the introduction, second will be the body part, and the third will be the conclusion. So in the introduction part, we will write about the poverty. Poverty is a phenomenon where they are affecting the various population in the different countries out of the 198 countries, and the most affected countries are developing country and the low developed country. On the basis of the incidence and the intensity of the poverty, the incidence is determined about the proportion of the poverty, and the intensity is determined about the how intense it is, how it's impacting the different factors in life. So there is a difference between the incidence and the intensity. So we will define these things in the introduction part. In the body part, we will write about the dimensions, how we can determine the incidence and the intensity of a poverty. Then in the second part of the body, we will write about the multi-dimensional poverty index of the United Nations, how the MDPI UN is determining the poverty, what are the lacuna in the MDPI index. So we will discuss all these things in this question. So let's come to the first body part. In the first body part, we will write about the importance in determining क्या importance है, जो there was a first statement in the question that is specifically focusing on what is the importance of determining the poverty. So we will write about the importance in determining poverty by incidence and by intensity, how we can focus on both the factors for determining the poverty. In the first case, the political, there can be the three factors. One is the political factors related to the policy, social factors, and then the economic factor. How these three factor works, and we can subdivide these factors. Okay, so let's start with the political factor. In political factor, the number one is the effective policy. Effective policy. If the government is making the effective policy related to the poverty determination, related to the different kind of the poverty, related to the different incidence and intensity of the poverty, and there is proper implementation of these policy, then we can find about the level of the poverty, the incidence of the poverty. In the second case, there can be a focus on the specific issue. Focus on specific issue. Specific issue related to the health, specific issue related to the food, issue related to the education. So when a policy is framed for a specific issue, means a targeted policy is framed for a specific section of the society, for a specific issue, they give a fruitful result related to the any of the policy or any of the objective of the policy. In the third case, so these are the two important political factors which can be helped in determining the poverty by incidence and the poverty by intensity. And if we are making the effective policy and if we are focusing on the specific issue, so this is the importance of the incidence and the intensity. In the second level, in the social, we need to be focused on the ground level data. Means at ground level, what is the situation? How much percentage of the population is under the poverty? Under which group, age group? How many age group between the 40 to 60 is under the poverty? Children rates in the malnutrition, stunted growth, how much percent of children? So what is the ground level data related to the poverty that is required for focusing on the poverty level? Then the target welfare. Target welfare means that we need to be focusing on those target sections which are really under the poverty, which is under the below poverty lines. So we need to be focused on the targeted welfare. We need to be focused on the ground level data related to the social issues. So this is the second part कि हाँ आपको political parts you will write about the effective policy, you will write about specific issue. In the social part you will write about the ground level data. What is exactly the situation on the grounds? Here, if you have the numbers, if you are having the data, like in India, in the last few years, 297 million of the people come out of the poverty. So you need to be write the data here. In the economic poverty, the empowerment of the individuals, how we can empower the individual through the education, through the skills, how we can focus on the nutrition. So economic empowerment of the people so they can be come out from the poverty. So in this part we need to be write about these options and these guidelines related to the poverty. In the economic case you can write about the 271 millions people out of poverty in the with the targeted intervention in the India. So these are the issues you can write in your answers. Now the second part of the question is demanding the United Nations MDPI, Multidimensional Poverty Index. So when you're writing about the United Nations Multidimensional Poverty Index, in this case you need to know about the parameters, on which parameters they are framing this index MDPI, what are they included in the parameters, what are the recent report of the MDPI, what are the UN recent report related to the data of the poverty in the world level, and what is the status in the India. So you need to be write the data in this question, in this report, and what are the shortcomings of the MDPI report. So let's see about it. The dimension of the poverty. So first we will discuss about the dimensions. What are the dimensions of the poverty they are including? What are the specific indicators related to the dimension of the poverty. If I told you about the indicators, they are having the 10 parameters of the indicators. One is related to the health, where they are focusing on the nutrition, child mortality. Educations, they are focusing on the year of schooling. Standard of living, they are focusing on the cooking fuels, they are focusing on the sanitations. So these are focusing specific the standard of living, they are focusing on the health, they are focusing on the education. In the education, they are focusing on minimum years of schooling, minimum age of schooling. Then on the specific standard of living, किस तरीके से रहते हो, क्या type है, they are focusing on the standards of the living also. They are focusing on the health, mortality rates, they are focusing on the nutrition. So they are overall the 10 indicators on which the multi-dimensional poverty index is focusing. So they are measuring the reports through these dimensions. How much percentage of the people under the poverty, what is the data in the different country, in India what is the data. So these are the major issue, these are the major idea of the dimension of poverty under the MDPI. In the second case, the index analysis. Index analysis means when the MDPI is preparing the report, Multidimensional Poverty Index of the United Nations, they publish their reports, so there should be a complete analysis about it. In which age group there is a higher kind of poverty. In the case of the children, how many children is suffering from the malnutrition, is suffering from the stunted growth. In the case of the woman, how many women are suffering from the anemia? How much percentage of the Indian population is under the poverty line? So we need to be identify the incidence, how much percentage, how much proportion of the people are suffering from it, and the intensity on which area they are suffering from it. So we need to index analysis of the MDPI, how they are suffering and their intensity. Then what are the limitation? What are the specific limitation of the UNMDPI? We are taking the 10 indicators. They are measuring the index, they are focusing on the analysis, and then what are the shortcomings? In the case of the limitation, one is the data deficiency. No proper data available for the poverty in the many of the country. Their designing of the index related to the calculation, related to the sources what they are using. The inequality in between the country, intensity level, intensity related in a different country, capability of a different country. So they are not focusing, they are taking everybody equal. They are taking the everybody equal. There is an issue with the data. So these are some of the limitations related to data deficiency, related to inequality, intensity. Next, what we can suggest here, we can suggest about a better policy formation with respect to the developing country, with respect to a developed country, with respect to a lower developed country, focusing on the target groups. And we need to be also focus on the implementation of the policy. अगर हम कुछ लगा रहे हैं, we are framing any of the policy, then we need to be focused on कि specifically how we are focused maintaining this policy. And the data deficiency is specifically कि जो 10 indicators are specific. The 10 indicators are not sufficient specifically. And in the case of the intensity, we need to be focused on the head count ratio. Head count ratio में specifically we need to be focused on कि कितने numbers हैं specifically, कि किस area में there is a poverty. And in the case of the incidence and intensity, if you see the South African country specifically, in the African country there is a higher malnourishment, there is anemia case, there is a low poverty lines. So वहाँ पे specifically need to be focused on. There is intensity is very high, even the incidence is high, and also the intensity of the poverty is very high in the African country. In the case of the Asian country, in some of the Asian country, the intensity is not much, but the incidence is high. So you need to be right about these kind of data in the United Nations Multi-Development Poverty Index regarding the poverty. So this is the main demand of the question. Now you need to be right about what can be the conclusion in these kind of the question. What you can write in the conclusion? In the conclusion you can write about the measurement of the poverty through the incidence and specifically the proportion how much percentage of people are under the poverty, and the intensity specifically focusing on the different kind of the targeted area, different kind of the, we can say, multiple types, like which are the malnutrition. There is a issue related to the specifically the anemia. There is related to the stunted growth in some of the area. So we need to be focused on the incidence, we need to be focused on the intensity if we want to remove the poverty from some specific area. So you can conclude the answer according to you. Even you can conclude the answer with some of the specific data. You can write about the any of the better case study in this area. This country done a very good job related to the poverty elimination. You can even give the example of the India. They removed the 271 million people from the poverty. So this is the main demand of the question. I hope this is completely understood to you what exactly the question is demanding, how we can decode the question, how we can divide the question in the multiple parts. So this is the main questions. I request you please try to write the question and submit the answer so we can evaluate your performance, how you are writing, how you are understanding the question. So in this series, we will meet tomorrow again at 6 p.m. with a new question. Till then, please try to write the answer, try to revise these questions, try to understand the demand of the question. If any issue, if anybody is facing any issue related to the course, you can comment in the comment section, you can write in the Telegram groups. Okay, so we will meet tomorrow again at 6 p.m. with the new question. Thank you.